Cardinals Insider Podcast, September 2024. It is the season finale here for the 2024 season. 6 of 6. Glad that you could join us. We are, I'm going to call it our remote studio, which is really my office here at Busch Stadium through the StreamYard. Producer Travis is on the ones and twos. Appreciate him doing that all year, whether we're in our studio downstairs or up here in our digital space. Joe Pfeiffer, Larry State from Alumni Relations, unable to join us this month, but hopefully next year when we kick off the new season, they will be there on that season opening episode. I know that I miss them. I'm sure you do too, but we've still got some good stuff for you here today as we wind down the season. Kind of a two-parter. We're going to look at some unique content that only the Cardinals had. You may have seen John Denton wrote about it on MLB.com. He borrowed some video that the content and production department was able to get from a Clubhouse meeting in Minneapolis during the dad's trip. We're going to let you hear Ozzie Marmol address the team and the fathers that made that trip in just a minute. And then the other thing we're going to show you is something really neat that we've partnered up with Cardinals Magazine, really the yearbook. They produce the yearbook. Cardinals Publications does both the magazine and the yearbook. They've got this really neat concept going for the yearbook called My Greatest Day as a Cardinal. It is just what it sounds like. Alumni from different eras of Cardinals baseball talking about their favorite day. There's some of them in there where you would say, yes, it's easy to pair a certain alum with a certain event, right? And one of those is the one we're going to talk about today. But there's also some ones where maybe you wouldn't peg this moment or wouldn't even know about this moment from a guy's career. And it was really, really interesting and insightful. That's his, if it's not out now, it's going to be out really soon. That Cardinals yearbook, again, My Greatest Day. You can head on over to cardinals.com/yearbook to get more information. And we're going to hear Ozzie Smith's retelling of his 1985 NLCS home run in a couple of minutes. This is just a small portion of a much longer interview that they did and then condensed down. It's his voice basically telling you what went on in that moment. But first, let's go ahead and rewind back to that dad's trip. You may have seen it on Cardinals social, perhaps some of the local beat writers here. And then John Denton did a wonderful news letter about it. Ozzie Marmol very graciously granted us access to have cameras in the clubhouse. Some of the players spoke. All the dads were at the various lockers. They had 13 dads represented on the trip from players and then also the staff, trainers and such. Just really neat. A celebration of what parents, Ollie mentioned that, and you'll hear it in a minute, what parents do in order to get sons to the big leagues. And dads were kind of the focus, but certainly moms are involved in that as well. We're going to let you hear this unedited. Ollie had 4 minutes. He kind of just talked about his parents' story a little bit, about what it means to have a parent that's engaged in a baseball journey. And then he handed it over to the rest of his clubhouse. We're not going to let you hear any of that just yet. We're kind of keeping that in the room, so to speak. But there were some neat moments. I learned a lot about different guys and their dads that I did not know going into this thing. I will say, just to preface, there's maybe a few words, a little language in here that you wouldn't normally hear on this podcast or on some of our Cardinals different content. None of it is anything that you couldn't turn on a network sitcom and hear, but just a heads up, if you're listening with those who are younger in the room, we recognize there's a lot of different sensibilities represented in the listenership. So again, nothing you couldn't find during a network sitcom, but maybe something a little different than what you might typically hear here on the program. But it's really good stuff, some good life lessons, some good messages, just an incredible weekend with players and their dads in Minnesota, a 3-game set against the Twins. The Cardinals went 2-3, took some games in a tough atmosphere against a good Twins team. And on Saturday, after the dads took BPs with their sons, they sat down at the lockers in the clubhouse, and Ozzie Marmol kicked off the meeting with the speech you're about to hear right now here on the Cardinals Insider Podcast.
All right, I do want to take a second before all the dads head back out to the hotel and then come to the game tonight. What we just saw there was pretty cool because it doesn't happen every day, man. Seeing you guys running around with your dads, hit BPs, some running faster than others. But it was cool to watch just the joy that it brings whenever we get to do this together. And it doesn't happen often enough, man. It really doesn't. But it was cool to watch. My dad wasn't able to be here. He was on his way, but some medical stuff happened. But here's what I want to say. You guys in this room do a really nice job of playing for the name in the front. But when I'm out there watching you guys, I do want to remind you on a day like this that name on the back matters. It matters a hell of a lot, because for a lot of you guys, it's where you came from, and it's what shaped you and made you who you are today, okay? And I don't want to minimize, because I've heard some of the stories with Mace and Newt, man, talking to you, some of the mothers in this room and what they've gone through and the sacrifices that they've been through in order for us to be in this room. So I don't want to minimize that, but I do want to take a second and give you guys the 15-second version of my dad's story, because I think you'll be able to relate a little bit with it. My mom and dad, they were both from the DR, Dominican Republic. They had 2 businesses out there that they ran. They did a nice job with it. They had everything they needed, man. There's no reason for them to move to the States. They were surrounded by family, nice home, didn't have any needs. And I have 3 older brothers. They were all born in the DR, and one of them was being recruited to go play at one of the academies. And my dad made the decision that he wanted us to be able to pursue an education and still pursue our dream, and the way he wanted to do that was here in the States. And my dad was successful, and he knew if he made this decision, it meant he was going to have to work labor for the rest of his life. Picks up the family. We moved to not the greatest neighborhood in Miami. And for as long as I can remember, this man would walk through the door at night once it was dark, covered in paint, covered in cement, covered in all types of stuff, and with a smile on his face. Never complained once. Never. I never heard him complain once. And I think the reason is he knew his why. He knew why he was doing it. And I look back, 3 older brothers, 2 of them are pastors, one of them's a detective and a member of the SWAT team outside of Houston. And I get to manage one of the best franchises in all of sports. That's pretty damn cool. I think he would do it all over again, okay? And I think all of us have our version of that story, all right? All of you have sacrificed to whatever degree, whether it's the dads in this room, the stepdads, the mentors that were brought on this trip, whether it was when you were 5 just starting to play the sport, when it was 15 when you got to high school, 21 in college, your first year after the draft, or even 10 years into your career. There was a certain level of encouragement that was needed. At times, a kick in the ass, which was needed. But what I will say is, when people were trying to place limitations on the men in this room, you guys reminded us that we have no limits if we put our minds to it. When the world was beating us up and telling us we're crazy for pursuing our dreams, you told us they had no place in defining our future. And for that, we're incredibly thankful.
What a cool message. I mean, no matter what it is that you do in life, there are people that have been around you, that are around you now, that have helped you to get there. And I thought it was just a neat moment to look around the room and see that that really resonated with everybody in there, with the dads, with the players. It is easy for all of us to get tied up in results, and results matter in the big leagues. But just a nice reminder for me as I stood there behind a camera that, hey, these are human beings, and there's a lot that goes into their story. I thought that was really cool that Ollie made it a point to invite us in, because really what he was doing is inviting you in to that discussion and to hearing that. And that's something he's been really good about throughout his tenure here, is just trying to make sure that you get access to moments like that. So we appreciate the manager and inviting us in, letting us hear that little bit of that clubhouse meeting. That was pretty cool. It was also pretty cool in 1985. Ozzie Smith, as you know, in Game 5, made us all go crazy. You had Vin Scully in the TV booth, Jack Buck in the home radio booth, 2 iconic calls. Jack's, of course, ringing the most loudly. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. You've seen the highlight. You've heard it over and over again. But Cardinals Publications, through the yearbook, is really giving it new life and letting Ozzie in great detail tell his own story. He's one of many alumni telling a story just like that in that yearbook. We'll be celebrating 40 years since 1985 next season, a magical season. Even though the Cardinals didn't get quite to the top, won the National League pennant and lost the World Series in 7 games in the I-70 series, still for many people, that 1985 team is their team. It is the quintessential Cardinal team in their memory. So a lot of special memories. We'll be celebrating those next year. And I wanted to just kind of wet your whistle, get you ready for it by listening to Ozzie tell his perspective on that home run. Here it is as it aired on Cardinals Insider TV. You're hearing it now on the Cardinals Insider Podcast.
I wasn't trying to hit a home run when my spot came up in the 9th inning of Game 5. I was just trying to get the ball down in the corner because they always throw me hard and always try and get me out inside. It gave me that perfect opportunity if I don't end up missing the fastball.
Niedenfuer is your typical relief pitcher. Rear back and fire, throw as hard as you can for as long as you can.
Fastball fouled away again.
They were going to try and pound me in, and Niedenfuer was proud of his fastball because that's his out pitch. The count was 1-2, and he had thrown a couple pretty good fastballs that were up and in. There were a couple that I fouled back, but then got the ball out a little more over the plate than he wanted to. I supplied the technique, he supplied the power, and I guess history was made.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
I didn't know it was gone right away. I was running the bases, and I knew it was at least off the wall, and if he mishandled it at all, I'm on third base, and the Dodger right fielder, Mike Marshall, actually played it pretty well off of that concrete. He played it on one hop. So Mariano Duncan was the shortstop, and the ball came into him, and I can remember him catching the ball. But by that time, the umpire was actually signaling home run, and that was it. And I was thinking, now we've got our chance. This was the chance we were looking for to go back to LA and win it, which we did when Jack Clark hit that home run in Game 6.
And he hits one to deep left field, and that one is gone.
It wasn't until after the game was over that I heard about Jack Buck's great call. Go crazy, folks. The first thing I heard was Jack said he missed it. He said, I think I missed the call. But this is the greatness of the Vin Scullys or the Jack Bucks. They make it when they miss it, or when they think they miss it.
It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizards.
It turned out to be one of the greatest calls. It's one of those instantaneous moments that happens with greatness. As players, we create the moment because of what we do. But broadcasters enhance the moment by how they deliver it. Now, it's etched in the history books and the annals and Cardinal lore. That was one of those moments. When I got up that morning, I had no idea the day was going to end the way that it did. To hear more about that day and the greatest days in the careers of other Cardinal alumni, check out the 2024 Cardinal Yearbook. You can get more details at cardinals.com/yearbook.
The Cardinals get Niedenfuer twice in Game 5 and Game 6. I think that's one of the nuggets that's forgotten the most is Niedenfuer was on the mound against Ozzie, the only left-handed home run in Ozzie's career. But then Jack Clark gets him in Game 6 2 games later. That's tough sledding for Tom Niedenfuer, but 2 great moments, great home runs in Cardinals history. I'd say those are 2 of probably the top postseason home runs ever in St. Louis Cardinals history. Bit of a mishmash today here on the podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it as we kind of gear up and get ready for 2025. I would love to know, Joe would love to know, Larry would love to know, producer Travis would love to know, what is it that you like in this show? Do you like when we just sit down in alumni and go for 35, 40 minutes? Do you like stuff like this where we're kind of pulling different pieces from the buffet of content that the Cardinals do and letting you hear it? I hope that there's value in both. So maybe that's the answer, is you like a little bit of both. I would love to hear from you this winter. Podcast with an S at cardinals.com is the email, podcast at cardinals.com. You never know what might happen. We might drop some bonus content throughout the year, so be subscribed wherever you get your podcast. We did have the magazine sitting down with Ozzie and Mason Wynn. We're airing those on television the last few weeks of our TV season, and we'll do a full version of that on YouTube at some point this winter, but I think we may bring in the audio here as well. We've got Cardinals Hall of Fame coming up on the 6th and 7th of September, so there may be moments that we drop you here in audio form on that as well. You just never know. We're kind of holding things with an open hand and just trying to bring you the content that brings you a little bit closer to the team that you love. We appreciate you logging on, whether it's on YouTube and watching via video or joining us in an audio format. For Joe Pfeiffer, Larry State, Travis Hawkins, and everybody else involved with the program, my name's Brett McMillan. We'll see you for sure on April the 1st, 2025, as we embark on a new season. For now, thanks for joining us this year on the Cardinals Insider Podcast.